This
So I
conference will
think,
now be recorded.
all right. Welcome everybody. Let me pull up a presentation here. Window. Oh, I can do that. That's fantastic. Can you guys see a presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So hopefully we're all in the right place. This is the data center facility project sustainability / metrics call. Hopefully I have that right. Just a little introduction about me so you guys know who you're dealing with. So Rob Bunger, I work for Schneider Electric. I'm based out of the, I'll call it the greater Boston area, but actually live in Connecticut. And I have some familiarity with Open Compute. I was the data center facility project lead 2016-18 and an IC committee rep. Also have worked quite a bit with Mark Dancy as we developed the facility program. And with regards to the topic at hand, we've worked. We have within our company, we have a pretty large sustainability business, but our division, we have worked on specifically sustainability metrics and done some liquid cooling stuff and all that. So anyways, that's me. I wouldn't mind, let's see, let me stop sharing for a second. If we don't have a big crowd, if we could do real quick introductions, that'd be great. Does everybody know each other here, or I'll go ahead. So Priya, if you want to.
Yeah. Hey, my name is Priya Chiba. I lead the data center facility sustainability group, so you may have seen me on those calls. I co-lead that with Sean James, whom we haven't seen much, but I'm going to try and get him to participate a bit more. And then also I work at Google, and I am currently the sustainability lead for Google within the data center innovation side. So my responsibility within Google is looking at ways to decarbonize our infrastructure. So decarbonize building construction materials, decarbonize energy, and then all on-site energy, and then also looking at sustainability in terms of water conservation. So looking forward to working with you all on this. Thanks, Robert.
Great. Mark, I'm just going to go on my screen here. So Mark.
Okay. Mark Dancy. I'm one of the OCP staff members and also the OCP Ready Facilities Lead, and I co-lead the Facility Recognition Program with Scott Sharp, who's Google engineer. Yeah, I worked with Rob a few years ago now to create the colour facility guidelines for the deployment of open racks, and then from that we created the OCP Ready program, which is recognition to co-location data centres that want to be recognised as being OCP ready, and that helps with OCP recognised equipment adoption. We've currently within the we have a colo site assessment, which gives the ability for a colo to carry out self-assessment, and we do have some questions within that site assessment around some metrics, PUE, WUE, CUE, but we're not actually at the moment asking for any particular parameters as such, other than do you monitor it? And I'm looking to develop the assessment so that we can ask further, more detailed questions on in and around not only efficiency but also data center sustainability, so that we can start to improve correct awareness, name and shame, just trying to get colos to become more transparent, and with that transparency hopefully we can improve sustainability reporting and measuring and calculating and yeah, do a better job than we are at the moment. So that's me.
Cool. Thank you. I'll go to Steve Nauman. Say that
That's
right?
right. Yep, thank you. Hi, I work for the U.S. federal government, the General Services Administration, and I write federal data center policy. I've actually worked for a living 30 some years before that, before I got into policy. So I was a data center director for the Social Security Administration and ran a huge program to get that data center located, designed, built, migrating and operating efficiently. And now I work in the Office of Government-Wide Policy that dictates policy to the federal government here in the U.S. I'm also, some of the things that I'm heavily involved in I'm trying to help create and advise people all over the United States to create off-grid, microgrid, alternatively powered data center complexes. And I'm actively working towards that. There's a recent Senate bill that we have, Senate Bill 933 out of Nevada. And it looks like that's going to pass, but then it has to go to the House and get the House version. And I'm going to be concentrating on writing policy for that, for physical security and for sustainability. I recently got published with the OCP for data center physical security. And then my group, we just put something out for sustainable acquisition terminology so we can all get on the same page in the federal sector. We have issues because we don't know whether, like when we go to colo, that's what I'm really going for, is we don't know whether it's a real estate transaction or an IT services. We're trying to make it an IT services, so it makes it transparent. So it's important for me to work with the Open Compute Project, because in the federal sector, we need to quickly get between providers when the contracts end, instead of getting locked into proprietary systems over the years. And we hear the term legacy system and how we need to get rid of that. So that's what I'm here for. Thanks.
Cool, thank you. Peter.
Yeah, hi everyone. Well, my name is Petter Terenius. I'm at Lancaster University in the UK, also at Uppsala University in Sweden. Come from an IT background, also a university background, and now I'm finalizing my PhD on data center waste heat, actually. So new applications and also new metrics for doing this. As it seems, it's very, very timely research, because as you might be aware of, we have the new EED version in Europe, and also Germany's own initiative on this. For example, all new data centers in Germany will need to have reuse of their waste heat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so as far as I know, and I should know, I'm the only one looking into this from a societal perspective rather than engineering. So I don't really know what I will do now after the graduation, because it's what I'm hired to do right now. After that, I don't know if I'll go to consultancy, to big tech, or to academia. So that's where I'm at. And as Mark was saying, I also believe OCP is a great initiative, and it interests me very much, which is why I attended the Euro Summit in Prague, and I hope to go to San Jose this autumn. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. All right, I hope I'll pronounce it right. Vien?
Even, that's right. Hi everybody. Yeah, I'm on the train actually, so sorry if the connection is bad. Yeah, I'm actually pretty new in this business. I'm a consultant / auditor with a very small Berlin-based firm, EIP, and we belong to the bigger Ecovis International firm. Some of you may know. And we've just been tasked recently with Eco Data Center to do a certification for them. And as Peter just mentioned, there's also some new German legislation coming out on the energy efficiency law, And yeah, we hope to advise some of the data centers. We also work very closely with Scale Up in Berlin, actually. Some of you may know they will install the OCP server very soon. So yeah, we're good friends with Christoph and also Stefan Frenzel in Europe overall. So yeah, hopefully we can give some advice. And yeah, basically advice for free here in these calls and the working groups. So that's basically an add-on from us to the data center world. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. All right, Lauren.
Hi, Rob. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. It's a new office setup, so I'm, troubleshooting each morning the camera, the mic. So, well, hi everyone. I'm Lauren Barbier. I started getting involved with OCP earlier this year, and it really comes from a passion around sustainability of water and energy that I've had for the last 18 years. I've been, working chemical engineer by education, but really a business practice and application person by, my real work. I started involved when I was working for Veolia, so we were doing water treatment and energy services, which was really, again, a passion of just myself, but also what my company did. And I recently joined HDR, which is a leading architecture and engineering services company. And so I'd like to get more involved with OCP to see first what I can contribute personally, but also because I think there's some great value in what our engineers and architects are doing around the world that we can learn from each other, but also take some of these best practices back to our clients for applications. So you see me pop up on a few committees, and that's part of helping to evaluate where we can get involved and where I can pull in some of our experts. So thanks for letting me participate.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. All right, nice to meet everybody. All right, back to the presentation. Okay. So as a review, I went in and took a look at the charter for the DCF sustainability, right? To kind of pull out, why we're meeting here together, and so I haven't been participating in those meetings, so Priya and Mark, you can always give color commentary to anything, but you can see there's a few slides on this, but 1, 2, and then you get to 3 on the metrics. So numerous data center industry groups are pursuing approaches to measure action and commitments to the climate change, along with associated sustainability goals. And the aim of this work group will be bring together data center leaders to discuss how the development of metrics, rating systems, and policy influence climate action. Access how data center policy is being shaped on sustainability metrics and the value of sustainability rating systems as a unifying framework and competitive leveling system for the data center sustainability. All right, so it's good, and to be honest, the group of people that we have on this first call is kind of exciting to be able to achieve some of that. So this is what is in scope and out of scope. Any data center facility, non-IT hardware technology that will aim at meeting the data center industry sustainability goals. The facility, power, water, GHG supply chain, specification guideline development, provide guidelines on metrics, example technologies. And then out of scope is developing new metrics, which is great because there actually are plenty of them out there. And then the last bit here is for milestones is develop a white paper for sustainability metric implementation. And then separate, which is probably part of the main group, sustainability technology roadmap. And so the opportunities, as I read this, and again, Priya, I'll kind of ask for your commentary once I'm done here, is provide guidelines to colo facilities in alignment with hyperscalers. Metrics paper will focus on metrics associated with water, heat reuse, renewable energy, power, and GHG, which we can all discuss here. And then we can map those metrics to potentially the technology roadmaps that will help providers achieve those. And if there's any case studies, that'd be great. So I'll stop there. Priya, any?
Yeah, so a couple of items, right? So there is a sustainability initiative as well that's looking on the IT side. or looking at the IT hardware side and the metrics associated with that. And while we are working on a separate work stream, I think it's important just to touch base with them. Alex Racal may be the best person to form that link, and you know him from he's the lead of that group as well. So
Yeah.
so that's I think just keeping track of what they're doing and making
Yeah.
sure that we don't have to coordinate too much with them, but working in concert with them. The other two work streams that we have within the sustainability realm is water, heat, and energy, and then also we have construction. So whatever metrics we sign up for, I guess, within the space, we just need to make sure that we're coordinating with the other sub work streams as well. So those were the two comments that I had. More making sure that we aligned internally with an OCP.
Perfect. Great. Any questions or comments from anybody else on the charter? Okay. So what I'd like to do is, at least as a discussion starter, show you a list of metrics that we assembled. And to give you some background, about a year and a half ago within our company, we put together a working group to talk about, hey, what would be the most appropriate set of metrics for data centers in the facility. And so we came out with its white paper 67, and that was out for about a year. We just revisited it and spent about another 4 or 5 months, getting feedback, understanding what's good or bad, and actually we just updated. I don't know if we publicly announced the launch. The paper's just about finished, so you're getting a little bit of a preview of the updated list that we have. But in any event, it's a starting point for discussion for us, and anything here, reuse as much as possible. So can you guys see? It's a little bit of an eye chart, but I'll walk through these. Can you see this table? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we had looked at 5 major categories of sustainability stuff. So I'll walk through these, and so 5 categories, and then we kind of did our best to figure out, hey, what if I'm a brand new data center, what are the most important things to work on? If beginning, advanced, and leading. So under energy, total energy consumption, pretty straightforward. PUE, total renewable energy consumption, and that'll actually be used in other calculations, such as renewable energy factor. And any of these, I think probably many of you are familiar with these ISO, originally Green Grid, now ISO IEC standards. So PUE, REF, ERF, ITUE, CUE, et cetera. Those, almost all of them are included here. But backing back up, so renewable energy factor, right, gives us a feel for how much, the ratio of renewable energy. Then energy reuse factor, which would track if you're able to export energy. And something that we added that was missing is server utilization. So this is a ITEU specifically for the server. And that's kind of a, it tracks slightly now into the IT layer on, hey, you've purchased obviously a bunch of IT resources, how well are you using it? Okay, so that's energy. Under greenhouse gas emissions, we identified scope 1, 2, and 3.
Can we comment on these as we go along, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, please.
Okay, just from my experience in the federal sector, we got rid of PUE because Nobody really knows how to calculate that properly. No two data centers are engineered the same way. And the way I would explain it is you could have 10,000 servers in a data center and have a PUE of 1.1, but those servers were not running any applications. It's possible.
Yes.
So we got rid of that, and I could show you a graph or chart of all the different. Every quarter, all the agencies had to report on that, and depending on who they asked that quarter, it was just all over the map. It was lots of wrong information for one. The server utilization, we got rid of that also because there's a lot of hot standbys or cold standbys. And you have to have, let's say you have a server that's 50% utilized, you're keeping that way in case you have to fail over another server to that server. So that was always really kludgy on getting people to give us the right information on that. Sorry about that. And the other ones are, that's some of the things that we're looking at. But the which the one? Total renewable energy consumption. That's real unless you're producing that on site. You're at the mercy of the power companies that you're connected to. So
That's right. Yep.
we can't say you have to be 30% renewable by 2030 when we've been held at 20% for 40 years. So it's kind of hard for us to do that. So that's just my comment. I'll go back on mute.
No, perfect. Thank you.
Hey,
I can comment on those as well if you wish, or we could wait.
Hey, quick one from me. I have to jump off for another call, so I'm going to be going. Just one last thing that I wanted to mention is we do have the Global Summit coming up in October. If we can, it would be nice for this group to present a paper on whatever findings and stuff we have at the Global Summit. And the deadline for submission of an abstract is June 30th. So Robert and team, I would highly recommend that we put something together to submit for that if we can.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah,
so,
I think
okay.
we can. I think we can come up with something for the summit. So yeah, I'll work to do an abstract.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good.
Okay. Thank you all. I got to jump. Bye.
Thank you.
Rob, I just wanted to ask a question about sort of where we can go through the list, and then it's where do we go from here? And
yeah,
I mean, Steve's got his opinion on PUE. I've got a counter opinion on PUE. There's people want to leave it in. There's people want to take it out. And I suppose the white paper that we're going to create is going to explain why, why we're going to use these, the explanation around it, and for the conditions of using it as well. Yeah, just thinking, is it the point after sort of looking at this list that we have a survey of everyone in the group on ones that they think should be left in and ones that should be left out, and then we sort of concentrate on the ones that are the sort of most popular or preferred, or what were your thoughts on how
my thoughts for this meeting is kind of just throw this out there, get exactly the kind of comments that we're getting now. I think if we all agreed this would not be a good meeting. But yeah, let's I'd say walk through it, and it might take that's true, we're only once a month, but we I don't know, it might be a survey, it might be something else where we'd say, well, what's an appropriate number? What do we think is most important? And I think applying it to the Colo OCP ready program, it's like, all right, if these are the metrics, and then what should the numbers be if you're great, average, not good, or whatever. And I don't know, that's kind of where I see it going.
Yes, and I think at the moment there is a lack of transparency. I mean, we have been some data centers will share their WUE figures and based on existing ISO standard methods of calculation, and others won't. And so at the moment, we really don't have a good feel what's good or bad, and also a lot of the metrics are very much location dependent as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Which is another tricky thing. One comment I do want to make though is that in the EU, which I feel is leading the way in this area around and regulating and using metrics as part of regulating, and the EU Code of Conduct has been taken up by with this EU taxonomy. So I feel that we should try and align ourselves somewhat with other industry bodies.
Yep. Yeah, like the EU DCA has kind of a list of stuff too, right? And I should have included that in this presentation.
So I think we should look at the EU Code of Conduct and see whether we can get any harmonization with that. Because data centers, are going to be measuring it in Europe. We'll have to. So if we're asking the same thing, it's not so difficult for them to come back with the answers. That's what I'm, that's just an idea I've got, that we certainly should consider the EU and how they're going about and what methods they're using.
I think that if you could go back to that slide. Sorry. I think that I think we need to sort of elevate the discussion on data center efficiency metrics overall, because as Mark was saying, what are they doing in the EU and so on, and even and I would know, and surely Jamie, but they are sort of flawed by the same problems that we see in the energy space here, as Steve was also pointing to. I mean, they're using PUE, and for example, ERF is itself problematic, because I mean, if I wanted to erect a big data center now in Germany, and they have this. They have this directive saying that, well, you actually need to reuse energy. I would just dig a huge hole and call it a swimming pool, and that would be the end of it. And I actually fulfilled my duties. So that there are a lot of problems here that are sort of inherited from other metrics. So I think that one should take a step back. I personally promote or advocate for holistic metrics, but so to get rid of that problem. Also server utilization. I know that Uptime Institute, for example, instead prefers CERT for server usage. So I think that is where we will go and where we will end up anyway.
Yeah,
but
just server utilization.
I have a lot of info on this.
Yeah. This standard does incorporate, the two different methods of measuring utilization in any event, CERT, and I think there's one other one. But now, when you say holistic measure, what do you mean?
So the reason why I went to Prague, and that is where Priya recruited me to these groups, was to promote such a holistic metric. I call it DSS, or Data Center Energy Sustainability Score. So it's basically a scorecard solution. And and I think it's the only way to go about this this situation in terms of energy, in terms of GHG emissions, water, and maybe also waste, or I'm not sure about that, but perhaps.
Yeah. After I run through this, would you? I think I can give you rights. Would you be able to share what you have?
Yeah, sure. I can upload the paper that got me to Prague.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah.
Public, right?
As it happens, it was read by, or it was reviewed by John Summers. Some of you might know him from RISE in Sweden, and by Deborah Andrews in London. So,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I'll walk through this very quickly. A lot of this stuff is very self-evident. So we're all familiar with scope 1, scope 2, 1, 2, and 3. Scope here too, one of the reasons you want to break out location-based is market-based is kind of already said, right? Here you're, hey, where are you on your local grid? Or if you do have PPAs and things in place, you can also report on that. CUE, just the ratio to the IT load for carbon. And then clarify, are you using offsets for anything? And then on the kind of leading phase, and this is something that, like Google and stuff are trying to pursue, is hour by hour matching of renewable energy purchases with regards to, supply and consumption. Getting to water, it's total water usage, including WUE to get you the ratio. We added water replenishment. There are some places that are actually adding water back into the system. And then this is very leading for the purchased products, are there water usage in the supply chain? So it's kind of like a scope 3-ish type of thing, but for water. And then waste, oops, sorry about that. What you generate, and then broke out specifically e-waste and batteries as some of the things that are a little bit more, air quote, on the consumable side in a data center. And then land, total land use, and then we added like outdoor noise, as that's a kind of a local issue. And then I can't even see the last one because I have, can I move this thing? Oh, I can move it. Mean sheep species abundance, which is a little biodiversity metric, which is still in the early phases. So in any event, kind of throwing this out there as, pick and choose. There's stuff that potentially is missing that we want to take a look at. And, going towards some kind of scorecard set type of thing, I think is all good. Some people, maturity models are all different ways that we can present, metrics. So any questions before on these or comments?
Hi, by the way, I'm Jaime. I joined a bit later. I have always a conflict. I know a couple of you guys already. I don't have the camera on. Sorry, just realized it. Hi. The VUE, the water use effectiveness. This is taking into account also the total water use in supply chain is also taking into account the water use for the electricity production.
So within WUE, if you look at that standard, it talks about, on-site water use, and it does also talk about, there's a WUE 2 or 3, I can't remember off the top of my head, that talks about water use at the energy supply. So that's baked within WUE if you choose to use that and report on it.
Okay, it's like an option inside of UE. It's like
that's right. It's like it's a WE 1 or 2 or 3.
If I remember well, in the green grid there was VUE and VUE source, I think, right? VUE and VUE source. Or I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Rob, keeping on the water topic for just 1 second. So I know one thing we were always talking with clients about in the past was the source of water that they used, and how that was taken into account. If they were already using reclaimed municipal water as their source water, did that really count as water usage? And so just curious if that's kind of woven in here already, or if that's something we can think about exploring.
That's right. Yeah. If you go into WE standard, it does talk about what kind of water you're using. If you're very basic, it's like, I use water, I don't know what kind, right? And then a more advanced step would be, I am using reclaimed water, kind of like the Loudoun County, thing. And that would be part of how you report it too.
Okay. And then Rob, my only second question, and again, if this is just because I'm a newbie, please don't laugh, is, some of these metrics I expect will change over time, a brand new facility versus a 10-year-old facility. Have we thought about kind of what that rhythm is for how we pull and track these metrics?
Yeah, an example. That's a good point, and I have to think. PUE is a classic example. I just built my data center and it's 10% loaded, right? And I report on my annualized PUE, and it's going to be terrible because I'm like, I haven't filled up my data center yet, and so those are kind of qualifying comments that should be placed next to the metrics, so and especially if you're tracking scope 3 is an interesting one, right? Because you're going to be purchasing equipment periodically, right? There's a big hit in year one when you build your building, buy your switch gear, cooling units, all that stuff. So you have huge scope 3 hit. And then for the facility, it's pretty quiet until maybe you do a battery replacement. Servers are going to come and go, and then you hit. So I'm not answering your question, but I think it is important to understand like where in the life cycle you are for data centers.
Can I make a comment, please? So just two things. One of the things that I'm doing up in West Warren, Massachusetts is we're revitalizing. It's a brownfield data center. It's an old factory, textile factory that when it was in operation, it pumped hot water to the town. So we're going to revitalize that for the town. And the other thing is we're going to put it, it's going to be, it's got some hydro. We're going to put in geothermal, and we're going to be putting in EV charging stations and things like that. So the EV charging station is not powered by coal. That's one thing. And then I put some links in the chat on what I'm working on, and we're taking a different take on this. We're dividing it up into power, people, processes, and material. And I think everything in here can be categorized as that. And what we're up against is if we're too constrictive in our policy, we're going to be, or exclusive, we're going to put people out of the market. So we have to be very inclusive. And I look at it as there's like Wholesome, the company that the cement company that did a presentation last month. I had a separate call with that guy, and I'm trying to help him get his renewable or sustainable cement used. There's things that are what I call one and done. Like if you're building a data center with this new cement or new concrete or new building material, you don't get credit for that every quarter or every year. So at some point you have to say, okay, that's one and done, or there's continual process improvement. That's something that you can measure over time. That's another way. And then two, we're looking to do categories. So instead of having hard and fast metrics that we're trying to cookie cutter across the whole federal sector and all the commercial data centers that we use, that we have areas that, let's say there's 10 metrics in one area, and if you hit one of them, one or two or whatever, you get full credit. And that way we're trying not to exclude people, because the large companies have a lot more resources to do a lot of this stuff, and the smaller companies, not countries, the 8A and set aside type companies don't have those resources, but we don't want to exclude them. So.
Yeah. That's great. Okay.
I think it's just, it's like at the OCP Ready program, we have acceptable and optimal type parameters that can be selected. So, and then it's really up to the customer to decide what's the the minimum standard that they're quite happy to accept. So I do think you do need to have within the boundaries of for these different metrics that we need to have a minimum and a minimum requirement and a more optimum requirement as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we do have facilities that get recognised as and self-certified as OCP Ready when they haven't actually been, they haven't got the first anchor tenant, so completely new facilities. So a lot of the metrics we can't actually gather any data until year one and the recertification. So there's that we've got to consider as well when we're adding it to the to a site assessment.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Steve. It's good. You know, there's obvious, yeah, companies with a lot of resources are leading this area, but I think it's a great point that you know, you want to make easily understandable and achievable goals for the broader market, smaller players.
And one thing I came late. I don't know if you talked about in the energy part, so about the additionality. So if actually the installed power is being drawn by new build renewable energy plants, that is not that a data center, for example, is not taking away renewable energy from a society, which is a precious good. So this could be also a metric. And I think Peter Terenius wrote about that also in his paper.
Yes, yes. I mean, basically, I mean, I devoted 300 pages to this stuff, to this particular page that you were showing. So I could speak here until, well, everyone gets hungry. But regardless of your time zone, obviously I won't. But I mean, but something that has really occurred to me. Well, two things. One is that it's about a data center from a stakeholder's view, as in a politician. A data center is about societal value. So I agree with Steve that people are part of this, but that also means that a data center and the data center related metrics are relative to something, for example, to the society, and that is why all these metrics that are based on, you know, a compound or on many of these metrics, like the ones we've shown here, they are not really telling the whole truth. They're only telling a partial truth, because it all depends. Are you in a Swedish forest, or are you in where I went to Siberia in Malaysia? They're very, very different contexts. You cannot just look at CERT or PE or whatever. It doesn't matter, unfortunately. So that is one point. Another point related to that is that there are many. I mean, people have been looking into these different things for over a decade, for 15 years. So we tried to get away from PUE as a holistic sustainability metric. But still, if you look at the EU EED, the new directive, or also the Germany's, I think, and many others like that, we're still using a bunch of metrics and sort of hope that this is useful somehow. And I think that so many others have already done this. So I'm not really sure. I'm not saying I'm dissing it in a way. I'm just think that maybe we should take a step back and think, is that really what we need to do? Because are we really contributing to anything, since this has already been done by a lot of good people, especially in computer engineering? I don't know, but maybe that's worth a discussion. Maybe there's not time enough for that today, but I'm thinking maybe we should, you know, look into this from a clean slate, sort of. So I'm very interested in reading Steve's things in the links. Yeah, I am there.
Yeah, and you made a great point about PUE. It is geographically influenced. So right. So, and then
well, one thing I want to say about the geographic part is, you know, if I need to put IT equipment somewhere and I'm geographically unconstrained, I'll go pick the best PUE. Why not, right? There's going to be financial and everything else. But if I'm in a geography and I need to put my IT in, you know, wherever, it is what it is, right? And I'm competing against all the other data centers in that same geographic location. So the numbers are going to be different. And I think transparency is probably the main benefit that we're going to get here to drive behavior change.
And for overall, thanks. Overall energy consumption is only going to go up for our data centers. Infrastructure Masons puts out a factoid that over the next decade, we're going to need 34 times the amount of data centers that we have now. We're also constrained by the amount of renewable energy, and it's been holding about 20% for about 40 years. So the only way I can rationalize this is, since we're going to be growing, the only way we can measure this is overall energy usage, and we track the reduction in increase. That's the only way I can, because every data center will over time put more equipment in it, and we will start using more energy. But I'm trying to write these policies to get people to look to nuclear. People don't want to hear nuclear, but one of the things that I'm doing out in Nevada and working with folks is there's somebody has invented a micro fission reactor. It's 5 feet by 5 feet by 6 that puts out 50 megawatts of power for 30 years. There's no water involved. You're buried in the ground, and that's going to solve a lot of things. And it takes downgraded weapons fuel, which Nevada is full of. If you've ever heard of Top Gun and all that stuff, I think about 80% of the property out there is U.S. government owned. So there's tons of fuel. And when I talk about building data centers, I'm talking about building them all across the United States in small towns where they lost a factory. So I'm big into brownfield data centers. And when you build a data center, you can put 250 to 350 people back to work. And that's not IT people, that's security guards, HVAC technicians, and things like that. And when that happens, it's just like what happened when that factory or military base that was closed. I talk about the data center economic ecosystem. You need to live about an hour, no more than an hour away from a data center if you're going to work there physically. And you need schools, you need shopping centers, you need all sorts of things to support that data center with all the people and families associated. So that's one of the people factors. And we're big about using public transportation in the federal sector. So that's why when we locate data centers, we have to make sure that folks that don't own cars have access to public transportation. And that's one of the people aspects. So.
Great.
Rob, I guess with what Steve was just saying, and I'm sorry, I think my camera just went off. Do we think there's something else that within local ecosystem we could explore that really helps to capture what that local economic, impact is?
Yeah, I think we have to, one thing I think, what's in scope, out of scope, right? What's sustainability thing, and then what's already covered. If there's a LEED standard that talks about, right? I think there's a LEED score based upon access to public transportation and stuff. Do we duplicate that? What's data center specific? So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, we have 8 minutes left, I believe, in the call. Peter, I had my presentation in front of me. Were you talking? Did you have something was it you who was talking about having to present? When I was presenting, somebody said, I asked, hey, could you present that after I'm done? Was that you, Peter? Sorry, I don't have my faces and voices. Jamie, no.
It was maybe about the paper from PETA that you asked.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I just posted in the chat.
Yeah, the paper.
Oh, you put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Got it. Put it in the chat. Okay. So
yeah.
Maybe that's something that PETA could maybe present on in another call, that maybe take out the conclusion from it, sort of a more of a cut down, brief.
Sure, I could do that. I just have one comment for what Rob was saying about PUE and in different regions. Well, if you by PUE just say that we mean some sort of compute efficiency or whatever, then I agree with you. It's better to put them in northern Sweden than to put them in Malaysia in that regard. However, doing so, we don't really think about energy reuse or where the energy comes from. It's still just compartmentalized to the data center itself.
Yeah.
So there are manufacturers that that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'll give you some my personal opinion on stuff. So yeah, PUE. I think PUE is over the past 15 years, I don't know, has been a significant driver of facility efficiency, effectiveness. Because it's brought visibility to it, right? Nobody knew how much overhead they had in their facility. So it's been good. It's not perfect. We know that. And it's not the main metric that will drive us forward to the next level of sustainability. So do we do a portfolio? I've seen people try to combine a bunch of metrics with weighted averages into a single number. I tend to be not a fan of that because what's important in one physical location might be different in another physical location. With regards, water use is a perfect example, important in some areas, less important in others. Maturity models is another way to kind of do that in any event. But I'm kind of agreeing with you in that, you can't just look at PUE, you have to look at the broad set. And I think that's what we're trying to define of what is the stuff that is, we think, most important for the industry to look at and report on for improvement.
Yeah, and they are all based on local dependencies. So, for example, water scarcity, as you were saying, in many parts of the Midwest in the US, it is a huge problem. But if we don't see that in the metrics, and they can say, okay, we have great PEs or great whatever, we will end up with a metric that's not very benevolent.
Yeah, exactly. Timelines are always very good to help drive action. So if we have to come up with something by October, we have, July, August, September, 3 meetings theoretically to make that happen. We could theoretically have maybe a couple of more put in there if we want to drive stuff. So to the group, how do you want to work? Does the email list work to drive conversation or feedback? I tend to find, I don't mind it personally, but I tend to find that it doesn't generate really good dialogue. I don't know. Want to get your thoughts on that? All right. How about
you guys? Do you guys use like a Teams or anything like that? We can create a Teams to continue a conversation.
There's groups.
Just from my experience, to get things going, monthly meetings is not enough. It needs to be more frequent, maybe every couple of weeks.
More meetings.
I know, or to get a framework of what are we discussing. As I say, are we going to? It's a starting point. Are we going to create a matrix of just getting down to the sustainability metrics that we all feel that's important? That we're willing to put out reasons behind why they should be in, and leave the others that are out for the moment. Try and concentrate on just a few. And I think with your chart, Rob, you had like the minimum number of metrics in the sort of, it's the beginner phase. We're in the beginner phase. I feel we need to start from somewhere. We want to try and achieve something fairly quickly. Have something out there quite useful. So maybe we should try and just get some. If we don't want to have meetings, then it's a really, well, what are the metrics? Can we decide on the metrics by email that we want to work on?
Yeah. How about how about this? I'm going to after this meeting, I will send out an email on that. I'm going to with some of the links that we have here in the chat, including the EU DCA stuff, for people to digest. And then I'll look at, I think we'll need to schedule some additional meetings, no more than twice a month. We won't do that. and then maybe send out suggestions for people to vote on before the next meeting. So it's the beginning of June. Do we have, when's the regularly, I'll have to look to see. This was a reschedule, right? Because we couldn't do it last week. So the next one is going to be, so this is the May meeting. So we are going to have a June meeting.
It's the last week of the month, isn't it?
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, so we can have another meeting this month if we.
Yeah, so we'll have one at the end of June. So we'll keep that one, and maybe while everybody's on vacation, we'll just have fewer people, and we'll get through it super quick.
Yeah. I'd love to read, as I said before, Steve's work, and I think that well, as I said, if we're pressed on time, which I guess we are. At least I have a lot of, I have 300 references on this stuff in my thesis. So which only means that I could, contribute in that sense, if nothing else. Then I think that as always when working on this sort of thing, that a few could, whoever that is, or whoever those are, could be working more, and others chip in, or others continue where they started off. So
perfect. Okay, great. I like to make sure that we start and finish as much on time. So we'll stop it here. We'll meet at the end of June. We'll send out, obviously the recording hopefully will be done, and then also these links. So I appreciate everybody's participation. Steve, did you have something? Oh,
no.
Okay. Yeah, great conversation. Appreciate everybody's participation.
Did you need anything from us or need any help with that submittal? I think Priya said by the end of this month, though.
Yeah, we've got a couple of weeks
so
to put the abstract in.
Yeah, we got a couple of weeks for the next meeting, but I guess if there's additional, I'll send out after this meeting before the end of the week, kind of notes and stuff. And then you can reply if there's additional links or references that you want to add, just reply to the group with that stuff. And then we'll create an agenda for the next meeting to go through.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.